I am so glad that you're here today. Hope everybody's having a great day. And we're going to talk about summertime. Summertime's coming, and we have to be concerned about a lot of things. One of the things that you probably don't think about much, well, you probably think about it a lot, but don't realize what it's doing to you, is sunscreen. And is your sunscreen doing more harm than good? And the answer is probably yes. And so I want you to tune in. We're going to talk about a lot of fascinating things that you're not aware of and what you're innocently doing, thinking you're doing the right thing, and actually you're doing the wrong thing. So this is interesting. A lot of the chemical sunscreens we use on the market have been linked to an increased risk of skin cancer. Now, the first thing you think of is I'm putting sunscreen on to protect myself from skin cancer, but it's actually increasing it. Some of the most hazardous of those that are out there contain something called oxybenzone, synthetic fragrances, and retinol palmitate. So these are chemicals. If you reach in your cabinet right now and pull out your sunscreen, the chances are very high they have one or all three of those chemicals. And we'll go over it again. I know you don't, what were those names again? I'll go over it again. Don't worry. And we're going to tell you what you can do to protect yourself, how to pick a good sunscreen. Because a lot of you are using cheap, well, not the cheap stuff. It's expensive. Isn't it amazing how expensive sunscreen is? You're using the more expensive stuff, and even though it has a fancy name and a fancy label, it could actually be making you worse. Now, sunscreens have also been implicated in destruction of coral reefs and other sea life. Now, this was something I wasn't aware of until I started doing research on this. Oxybenzone, found in about 70% of sunscreens, is lethal to things like horseshoe crab eggs. Your safest bet, so I'm going to give you the tie together, and then I'm going to put it all together for you as we go throughout, is something that's going to contain zinc oxide or titanium dioxide and does not contain nano-sized particles. Now, what the heck is a nano-sized particle? You're going to have to pay attention because we're going to have to cover this. And this is one of the things I see a lot of is patients come in my office all day, every day, offices, and they'll come in with their blood work. In many cases, in fact, it's rare I have somebody come in who isn't low in vitamin D. Now, vitamin D is really important. It's often referred to as the sunshine vitamin. Why? Because when the sun hits your skin, it interacts with cholesterol and creates vitamin D. UVB rays interact with cholesterol and make vitamin D. But it's really different from other vitamins because it influences just about every part of your body. And one of the supplements or one of the nutrients most of us are deficient in is vitamin D. And I talk about that a lot, the things that people are deficient in. Vitamin D, magnesium's another one. But I digress here. Let's go back to vitamin D. While scientists refer to vitamin D as a vitamin, it's really a steroid hormone, and you get it from sun exposure, from food sources, and, of course, from supplementation. Vitamin D receptors have been found in almost every human cell in the body, from your brain to your bones. Now, what's a vitamin D receptor? Cells have receptors on them. It's amazing when you look at a cell how many receptors they have. And what a receptor is, it's a place for it to absorb something. It could be a hormone. It could be vitamin D. It could be iodine. So receptor sites are parts of the cell where the body says, okay, I want some vitamin D. Come in here. It's a doorway that's going to open for vitamin D or open up for iodine or whatever it is. Now, unfortunately, dermatologists and the media have really done the public a great disservice, I feel, by recommending avoiding sun to decrease skin cancers. And that's real popular. A lot of people are avoiding the sun and say, I don't want to get skin cancer. It might actually be increasing skin cancer and other diseases by some of the things that you're doing. It's because these experts fail to realize that vitamin D not only raises your risk of skin cancer, but many of the most common cancers, which claim far more lives than melanoma, people are having problems with. So what we're doing is, and this is the kind of quandary we're in, is we're avoiding the sunlight to prevent melanoma or skin cancer, but in the process, by avoiding the sunlight, we're increasing our risk of other cancers. So there is a Goldilocks zone. There is that happy zone where you want to be to get healthy, get the best benefits from the sun, but not get sunburn. And that's where the problems come in. And I'm going to open up the lines right now. If you have a healthcare question, pretty much on anything, we're just talking about sunscreens and things like that today. Any healthcare question you're concerned about, give us a call. The number's 844-44-DR-JOE. 844-44-DRJOE. That number, by the way, rings through to my offices when I'm not on the air. So if you ever want to make an appointment or have questions, you could always call 844-44-Dr. Joe. But right now, if you have questions, give us a call, 844-44-Dr. Joe. Breast and prostate cancers, two examples of what low vitamin D can do, it can be associated with, and it renders you more vulnerable and to more aggressive forms of the disease. So if you have the diseases, we got to get those vitamin D levels up. And the problem is this: if we take vitamin D supplements, which is one way to do it, it's relatively inefficient compared to sunlight hitting our bodies. When sunlight hits our body, about 20 minutes of vitamin D, sunlight is going to give you 20,000 international units of vitamin D. You have to take a lot of supplements to get that much. Folks, got to go to break. A lot of good things to talk about because this is really important. This is going to affect every day that you're out in the sun from now to the rest of your lives. If you have a healthcare question, give us a call, 844-44-DR-JOE, D-R-J-O-E. My website, drjoeesposito.com, or just Google Dr. Joe with the number one Dr. Joe in the world. A lot of good information there. I want you to go visit it. We have supplements there. We have my books. If you have questions, you can send me your questions through the website. And we archive hundreds of hours of radio shows, all there for you, all no charge. Hey, I'm Dr. Joe Esposito. Don't go anywhere. We're going to be right back. Esposito, don't go. Hey, thanks for listening. Thanks for telling your friends about the show, too, because when I'm on the air, when I'm not on the air, our Facebook page gets hammered, our website gets hammered, and I appreciate that because there's so much good information that we give you. And if you want to like me on Facebook or follow me on Facebook, we send out some good information there. If you go to my website, drjoeesposito.com, lots of good information there, hundreds of hours of radio shows, videos of lectures that I've done. Find out when I'm doing live lectures. Come out to the live lectures. Most of them are no charge, and they're a lot of fun because I can show you things I can't show you on the radio when it comes to health, because so much of healthcare is physical, not chemical, and we keep trying to treat things chemically. So we're talking today, or answering the question, does sunscreen do more harm than good? And the answer is, depends on the sunscreen. And a lot of you are probably using the wrong kind, because we got to get vitamin D. And if we're lathering up before we go out in the sun, we're blocking the UVB rays from interacting with cholesterol and creating vitamin D. Breast and prostate cancer, two examples that low vitamin D can come up with, along with heart disease, diabetes, osteoporosis, other chronic diseases. There's a lot of healing benefits to being out in the sun, but you got to be careful. You can't be out there too long. If you're out in the sun and the skin starts to just get warm, you've had enough. So that's one of the keys I want you to think about when you're in the sun. I was doing some yard work the other day. I had some wood chips delivered. I was spreading the wood chips. And I like doing things like that. I like getting outside and doing manual labor. And I was out in the sun, and I realized I was out there for too long. I wasn't paying attention. And I was out maybe a half hour, and I went out into the shade, and I realized I'm exhausted. My skin was too hot. Luckily, I didn't burn anything. And I said that was it. That was kind of dumb of me. So 10, 15, 20 minutes depends on your skin tone. Now, I'm Italian, so I'm not dark, but I have more of an olive skin. So I can probably take a little bit longer. If you're really fair-skinned, you probably only could be out there maybe 5 or 10 minutes. But as soon as your skin starts to feel warm, it's starting to turn a little pink, it's probably time to now either put on the sunscreen, which we'll talk about and soon, or get out of the sun. That's another option, too. We had a caller call in. If you have a question, give us a call, 844-44-DR-JOE, 844-44-DR-JOE. Caller didn't want to go on the air. He wanted to know the difference between Bell's palsy and a stroke. Now, if anybody ever had Bell's palsy or have ever seen anyone with it, it could look like a stroke. Now, Bell's palsy is paralysis of the facial nerve. There's 12 cranial nerves. Cranial nerves are nerves that come directly from the brain out and control something. Your sinuses, your eyes, your ears, control your face. These are controlled by something called the cranial nerves. The other nerves go down your spine, or they synapse, that means connect, and they come out of your spine through spinal nerves. And so the cranial nerves go directly to the body, and so they can be really quickly influenced. And so Bell's palsy is paralysis of the facial nerve. A stroke is when there's actually a blood vessel that pops or bursts in the brain, or it's a clog of a blood vessel, and you're not getting oxygen or blood supply to a part of the brain, and you become paralyzed. And if you have a stroke on one side of the body, the damage is on the opposite side of the brain. The right side of the brain controls the left side of the body. The left side of the brain controls the right side of the body. So if you have paralysis on your right side, the problem is on the left side of the brain. Now, years ago, we were taught, when I went to school a couple hundred years ago, that once a brain cell was dead, it was dead forever. But one of the questions I always had, which is now answered, is how come people can have a stroke and then actually start to regain some of their function or all of their function? And the reason is the brain has something called plasticity. Plasticity, like plastic, the brain can heal or have the ability to bend and mold itself, and it can rewire itself around a damaged area. So what happens is if we have paralysis on one side of the body, we need to stimulate the damaged side of the brain. And as we stimulate that damaged side of the brain can start to rewire itself using plasticity. So if you have a stroke on your right side, as a chiropractor, what I would do is I would start adjusting the right side of your body. Now, sometimes I'll start down at the feet, and I'll start manipulating the feet, and then go to the knee, the hip, the low back, the mid back, slowly stimulating, let's say it's a right side paralysis, the left side of the brain. Once we get the brain kind of up and running, then we can get a little more aggressive in our adjustments to stimulate the brain totally. And that goes for a lot of things. Most of us use one side of our body more than the other. So what that means is, think about this. What do you use most? I'm right-handed. You brush your teeth, you start your car, you work your mouse, you zip your fly. You're using one side of the body more than the other, and so the brain is not getting equal neurological input. The brain is designed to be integrated, not segregated. So segregated means using one side more than the other. So a little trick I have, and it's in the book I just wrote called Prescription for Extreme Health, is called a cross crawl. And what you do is you stand in place and you march right arm, left leg, left arm, right leg, right arm, left leg, left arm, right leg. And if you're able to do that right now, of course, you're driving, you can't, but stand up and see if you can do that. And watch yourself, because this is amazing. When I do live lectures, I'll use this as one of my audience participations. And I'll have watch right arm, left leg, left arm, right leg. And about 1-2% of the audience is marching right arm, right leg, left arm, left leg. And they don't even realize it. And I walk up to them, I said, no, stop. Look what you're doing. And then they go, oh, yeah, look at that. The right, if you want to get it right, the right elbow touches the left knee, the left elbow touches the right knee. And now you're integrating both sides of the brain as opposed to segregating it using one side more than the other. It's a neat little trick before you do a test. If you got a big presentation to do, if you just want to get your energy back up, stand up and go right arm, left leg, left arm, right leg, and do that for about 15, 20 seconds. It's fun. I did this one time. I was giving a lecture to a high school group, and there were some basketball players there. We were in a gym, and I had them shoot a shot. You know, good basketball players. They can hit a foul shot. And then I had them march right arm, right leg, left arm, left leg. I had to mess up their brain purposely. I said, try to take that same shot. They couldn't even get the ball toward the rim. And I said, what'd you do to me? I said, I messed up your brain. Now march right arm, left leg, left arm, right leg. I essentially rebooted their brain, and now they were able to take the shot again. So notice when you're walking, swing your arms, right arm, left leg, left arm, right leg. Ladies, if you carry a purse, strap it over your shoulder, be able to swing your arms. Gentlemen, take your hands out of your pockets and swing your arms. When you do this, you're actually stimulating brain function, and you're able to grow new neurons or new nerve connections. If you're segregating your brain, the brain gets weaker. So one of the reasons you might be tired is because you're using one side of the brain more than the other. But to go back to your question, a stroke is when one part of the brain is damaged from lack of blood supply. And so we have to use plasticity to rewire the brain. We usually get pretty good results. I don't know if the person's ever going to play, professional tennis again. But when we get the brain rewired, it's pretty cool. So that's neat. So if you have a question, give us a call, 844-44-Dr. Joe, DRJOE. You could send me a question through Facebook. It's Facebook/Dr. Joe Esposito. Like my page. We'll send out good information there. My website, like we said, we archive hundreds of hours of radio shows there, videos. We're going to talk as we go on more about sunscreen and the damage that occurs. And many times the sun is damaging you because your body is so weak. And if you can get a high antioxidant level in your body, you're less likely to have not only skin cancer, but all types of cancer and all types of diseases. And you get that by eating the right foods. And the four best foods for antioxidants are going to be fruits, vegetables, nuts, and seeds. And I created something called Dr. Joe's Super Greens and Dr. Joe's Essential Source because people just weren't eating enough good food. And I said, can I put really the minimum amount of nutrients in a powder? And the answer was yes. So Super Greens and Essential Source, I take them every day. They're sitting right here in the studio in front of me. If you want more information, go to my website, drjoeesposito.com, or they're also available on Amazon. A lot of my supplements and books are on Amazon as well. You can go to amazon.com or drjoeesposito.com. Hey, folks, if you have a healthcare question, 844-44-Dr. Joe. That number rings through to my offices when I'm not on the air. Hey, I got to go to a break. Tell your friends about the show. We'll be right back. Hey, folks, thanks for tuning in. Do appreciate you taking time out of your day. And we're talking today, we're answering the question, is your because we'll talk about why you got to be careful with sunscreen, but also the type of sunscreen you use. I'm not saying don't use sunscreen. I'm saying be careful with the type you use, because some sunscreens can actually increase your risk of things like skin cancer and other cancers too, and disrupt your hormones. That's not a good thing, but there's answers. Don't worry. You know I always have answers. I never let you down. I'd never let you guys down. That's why we're here. So when it comes to sunscreen, I want you to get some sun. And one of the things that we make a mistake is, okay, I'm going out. I'm going to lather myself up before I go out. Well, now you're not getting the sun interacting with your skin. The UVB rays interact with cholesterol to make vitamin D, or vitamin D3 actually. And so you got to get some sun. So one thing you might want to do is get out into the sun for about 15 or 20 minutes, depending on your skin tone. I'm olive skin. And so for me, I can be out there about 15, 20 minutes, and then I can apply the sunscreen. And one of the things, too, that's interesting is when you get vitamin D, let's assume you're out in the sun just 10, 15, 20 minutes. You know how you kind of get a little greasy feeling? Well, that's the body making the vitamin D. And what a lot of people do is they'll go shower. Well, if you shower that off, you're washing away a lot of the body's ability to make the vitamin D. It has to be produced and then absorbed into your skin. So getting out in the sun 10, 15, 20 minutes a day is really a good idea. Now, a lot of you are saying, well, I don't have time to do that. That's insane. Well, I got that. I'm busy too. But one of the things I did is I bought a sunroof in my car, moonroof, whatever it is, and in the sun I can open it. And I'll put a hat on because I don't like the sun, getting in my eyes. It can be glary. But I let it hit my neck, my face, my arms. And so then I'm able to get sunlight even if I'm driving to work. Roll up your sleeves. And try to get the sunlight because the sunlight is so key. We're going to talk about some of the other things sunlight does aside from a vitamin D. Let's take a caller first. If you have a healthcare question, 844-44-Dr. Joe, 844-44-Dr. Tammy, what's going on with you today?
Well, we are coming back from Helen and listening to your show.
Well, we like that.
Yes. All right. My question is, when I get out in the sun at the beach, my lips, I'll put a product on my lips, and by the third day, my lips start swelling. And I literally have to get ice and put ice on my lips. I mean, they're huge.
Sure, I understand.
And something is obviously breaking them out.
Sure.
So I need to know what to put on them
to
try to protect my lips from the sun.
You want to get, and I think most pharmacies would sell this, titanium dioxide or zinc oxide. It's the white stuff.
Okay.
And lifeguards would put it on their nose and it turns white. That's what it should be. Because one of the problems we have is that a lot of the commercial sunscreens have a lot of chemicals in them. And those chemicals can be really dangerous. Things like oxybenzone, synthetic fragrances, retinol palmitate. So the zinc oxide or titanium dioxide is going to create a white coating. So the sunscreen should actually block the sun from hitting you. So you're going to have white lips. If it disappears...
well, I'll take white lips instead of swollen lips.
Absolutely. But if you put on a sunscreen and it just disappears, that's probably not a good sunscreen. That's kind of a good general rule you could use because it should be tough. It should create a little white coating on you to act as a protection barrier. Because if they create nanoparticles, even if it has titanium dioxide or zinc oxide, and they make nanoparticles, which are microscopic little tiny particles, they can be absorbed into the skin. So leaving a little white film is one good sign that you have a real healthy sunscreen.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thanks for listening. We appreciate it. And if you have a question, give us a call, 844-44-Dr. Joe, 844-44-DRJOE. That's me. And we're talking about sunscreens. And one of the most important things you can do is you got to get some sun time, but not too much. And so there's, as we said, the Goldilocks zone. First and foremost, you got to avoid sunburn. As long as you avoid burning, you're going to be getting the benefits of sun exposure. So you got to be careful. And you know what? It's tough because if you're like me, you go out in the sun, you're thinking, okay, I'm just going to be out here for 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Oh, it feels so good because you're actually getting energy from the sun. If you understand how energy works, wavelength is energy. And you're absorbing energy into your body, and it helps the mitochondria in your cell function. Now, mitochondria are the part of the cell that generate energy. Now, one of the other things that happens is if you're in the sun too long, it can drop your blood sugar. And so you might get tired, but that's just because your blood sugar is crashing. But long term, you're going to feel revitalized because it's almost like plugging yourself in. You're absorbing energy from the sun. Back to sunscreens. Recent symposium on emerging environmental contaminants highlighted the environmental dangers associated with widespread sunscreen use. So it's not just about you that can be causing damage. It could be what you're doing to the environment. According to the University of Delaware marine biologist Danielle Dixon, the chemical oxybenzone in sunscreen is lethal to horseshoe crab eggs. So these chemicals that we're putting on our body are what's called endocrine disruptors. Endocrine system is your hormone system, and it's messing with your hormones. And if you've listened to my shows in the past, you know that I talk about the endocrine disruptors that you can find in hairsprays, deodorants, fragrances, perfumes, carpet cleaners, new car smell, because these unnatural smells, these fragrances, can actually mess with your hormones. So that's why I tell people, if you're going to do deodorant, please do a unscented deodorant. If you don't know what kind of deodorant to use, go to my website, drjoeesposito.com, or just Google Dr. Joe. Esposito is hard to spell. And I have a recipe for deodorant there. You can make your own. And that's what I do. Now, if I travel, I'll have a little container that I'll travel with. But if you're going to make your own, which is what I do, it's equal parts of shea butter, coconut oil, and baking soda. And I get a double boiler. If you don't know what that is, look it up online. I cook a lot. And I just take a metal bowl and I put it in a pan of hot water. And I dissolve them all together. And you can take a whisk to it to kind of whip up the baking soda, too. If it gets clumped up, you can put it in a blender if you need to. And then you could add a couple of drops of tea tree oil if you want to get crazy, lavender oil if you want to have a fragrance, but make sure it's an essential oil. An essential oil is a real oil. And then just put it in a container. And I have it in my bathroom, and I just dip my fingers into it and put it on every day. Now, one of the tricks you want to do is put it on, then kind of let it sit there for a few minutes, because otherwise, if you put your shirt on, you might get a little of the oil on your shirt. But it works really well. And instead of it actually being a toxin to my body, it's actually good for my body, because coconut oil and shea butter are great for your body. And in fact, coconut oil actually has an SPF of 8. It's not a lot. But if you want to get crazy and you want to be really careful, you can rub on coconut oil and rub it on every half hour. And you got about an SPF of 8. Now, 8 is it's protecting you 8 times longer than if you had nothing on. And so you can just put on the SPF at 8. So back to the sunscreens. Oh my gosh, it's time for a break. So much to cover. I got too much. We're going to have to do like a 5-hour, 6-hour show, I think. I got too much to cover. Folks, if you have a healthcare question, give us a call, 844-44-DR-JOE, D-R-J-O-E, 844-44-DR-JOE. My website, drjoeesposito.com. We have radio shows archived there, videos of lectures. Find out when I'm speaking next. Probably going to be in your area. Come on out. Most of them are no charge. If you have questions, send them to me through the website, drjoeesposito.com. If I don't get right back to you, I will soon. I promise. I didn't forget about you. Hey, tell your friends about the show. We'll be right back. Hey, tell your friends. I am so glad you're spending a little time with me, and we're talking today about sunscreens, and it's doing more harm than good. Summer is a big time that we like to use a lot of sunscreen, but also in the winter, too. You got to use it sometimes, too. If you're out skiing, you can get burned. But as a chiropractor, my job is I want to get you as healthy as I possibly can. From a structural standpoint, we always look at the nervous system. If you have pinched nerves, it can cause neck pain, back pain, shoulder pain, numbness, tingling. And so my doctors and I are really good, at, as most chiropractors should be, putting the bones back in place, unpinching the nerves, and opening up the nerve supply. So it just makes sense. And if you have a pinched nerve, fix it. But 90% of your nerves don't feel pain. You don't feel your thyroid, your spleen, your kidneys, your earwax, your toenails. And if the sun is damaging your skin, you don't feel the cells being damaged. Could lead to things like cancer. Now, you might feel sunburn. It might hurt. But when you get down to the mitochondrial level or the DNA level, you're not feeling that damage. And so I want to keep you as healthy as we possibly can from a structural standpoint and from a chemical standpoint. So if you're eating bad foods, if you're eating things like alcohol, meat, sugar, dairy, coffee, soda, artificial sweetener, breads, cookies, cakes, donuts, pastas, what most people eat, you're causing what's called free radicals to get into your body. Now, free radicals are like Pac-Man. They attack things and they eat through things. And if you're taking these chemicals into your body and they're eating through the cells are already weak. Now we have sun damage coming in, and maybe we have endocrine disrupting damage from the sunscreen that you think is good for you. So now we have your body being bombarded from all these different areas. And if you have a pinched nerve, the nerve going to that part of the body isn't getting where it's supposed to be, let's say. So now you're not getting the brain messages. You're not getting proper blood supply. You're getting a chemical bombardment from the food you eat. Now you're getting sun damage. You're getting chemical bombardment from the sunscreen. Now you got a mess. So as your chiropractor and as your doctor, I want to help you get as well as possible, as quickly as possible from all angles. And that's why when we talk about things like sunscreen, it doesn't sound too exciting, but it becomes part of a bigger picture. And we got to be careful with that. So the chemicals we're looking for, the chemicals you want to check for to make sure they aren't causing damage, are oxybenzone, synthetic fragrances, and retinol palmitate. They also call it vitamin A, but those are the three biggies. Now, we said that it can affect your body, but oxybenzone, which is found to alter the DNA of coral, if you're swimming in the ocean, increase susceptibility to chloral bleaching and disrupt the endocrine systems of marine animals. And this is the real common ingredient here. Researchers found that chemical impacts aquatic life at concentrations of 62 parts per trillion. So this is how much has to get in there to affect aquatic life. 62 parts per trillion, that's the equivalent of 1 drop of water in about 6 Olympic-sized swimming pools. So you go to the ocean, and the ocean's packed, and everybody's got their sunscreen on, they're swimming around. That's a lot of damage to those ocean-going creatures there. So there's other chemicals, too, we have to be careful about. If you have a healthcare question, I'm going to open up the phone lines, 844-44-Dr. Joe, 844-44-DRJOE. It doesn't have to be about sunscreen or skin problems, anything. 844-44-Dr. Joe. Let's see if we can help you. Research from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention found 96% of U.S. population has oxybenzone in their bodies. And this chemical is known as an endocrine disruptor, and it's linked to reduced sperm count in men and endometriosis in women. Now I got your attention. You say sperm count, and everybody's ears perk up. What are you talking about? So these endocrine disruptors can really start messing with your hormones and alter your masculinity and femininity. At least 9 of the sunscreen ingredients in the U.S. Food and Drug Administration has approved, though 9 of the ingredients are known endocrine disruptors. Now, there's a lot of endocrine disruptors out there, and somebody said to me once, not long ago, one of my patients, well, Dr. Joe, why are these foods on the market if they're so dangerous? Why are these chemicals on the market if they're so dangerous? There's a thing that the government uses. It's called, it meets the GRAS requirements. GRAS is generally regarded as safe, GRAS. And a lot of foods and chemicals are released, generally regarded as safe, until proven otherwise. So the research is starting to come out. Some new chemicals are out on the market. We're starting to see new research. And then we start saying, wait a minute, this may not be the best thing for me. And it could take years or decades before it becomes an issue. So my approach, and I'd like for you to consider this as your approach, is let's do the most conservative things first. If there's a conservative alternative, let's do it. If there's not a conservative alternative, I get it. But like with food, you could eat good, healthy foods that are high in antioxidants that are going to help suppress or fight the free radicals. Now, free radicals we get from, sunlight, cooked foods, or most people eat foods that are loaded with free radicals. Cigarette smoke, smells, perfumes, hairsprays. And so the free radicals are like Pac-Man, like we said, they attack the body, and antioxidants neutralize the free radicals. And you get your antioxidants from good foods like fruits, vegetables, nuts, and seeds. So I want you to think about this. Next time you're having a meal, could you replace something that isn't a good food, what I call one of the 7 deadly sins of nutrition, alcohol, meat, sugar, dairy, coffee, soda, and artificial sweetener? Can you replace that with one of the good foods, fruits, vegetables, nuts, and seeds? And if the answer is yes, do it. And then replace another 7 deadly sin with a good food, and replace another, and now you have a plan. Up to this point, most people don't have a health care plan. They have health insurance, but they don't have a health care plan. And a health care plan, I would consider 3 things. Normally functioning nervous system. As a chiropractor, we want to realign the vertebrae, not because it hurts, but because it hurts and you're pinching nerves to organs and the joints are wearing out. A good diet, at least the minimum amount of nutrients to make your body work every day. Don't go into negative nutrition every day because you're not giving your body the right nutrition. At least take Dr. Joe's Super Greens and Dr. Joe's Essential Source. That's the minimum amount of nutrients that we need to make the body work. And I put them in a powder form. It's real easy. They taste good. I take a scoop of each, mix it up with some coconut milk or almond milk. I don't do animal products. And drink it down. It's relatively very inexpensive, actually, for what you're getting. You're getting about 10 servings of raw fruits and vegetables, prebiotics, probiotics, digestive enzymes, complete multivitamin, alkalizing nutrients like wheatgrass, barley grass, alfalfa grass, omega-3 fatty acids. So it really kind of covers that spectrum. In fact, I got a text today from a friend of a friend, and she said, "Hey, Joe, I'm out of the Super Greens, the Essential Source. I need more." And I said, "Okay, go to the website or pick them up at our offices. If you go to the offices, of course, you don't have to pay for shipping." And she said, she was first kind of like, "Yeah, this stuff doesn't really work. It's green powder." And after taking it for a month, and now she's hooked. And so because she knows me personally, she sent me a text. I said, "Well, just get it like everybody else." But the stuff is pretty amazing. And once you take it for a month, most people go, "Wow, now I know what you're talking about." And that creates antioxidants, which neutralize free radicals. Folks, got to go to break. If you have a healthcare question, 844-44-DR-JOE, D-R-J-O-E. My website, you can get Super Greens, an essential source there. Oh, by the way, they're also available on Amazon. A lot of my products are on Amazon, my books and things as well. drjoeesposito.com, which is Google Dr. Joe. You can send me questions through my website, drjoeesposito.com. Like me on Facebook. We send out lots of good information there, too. Hey, don't go anywhere. Tell your friends about the show. We're going to be right back. Hey, folks, Dr. Joe Esposito. Glad you could be here. We're talking today about sunscreen, and is it causing problems? Is it affecting your health? And the answer is a resounding yes, it is. So we got to be careful. A couple of ingredients, and I've said this a couple of times, so I know you're not going to get it the first time. Oxybenzone, got to be careful with that. It penetrates into the skin. It gets into the bloodstream and acts like estrogen in your body. So that's not a good thing, is it, putting excess estrogen in your body? It can trigger allergic reactions. Preliminary data, studies have found a link between higher concentrations of oxybenzone and health harms. One study has linked oxybenzone to endometriosis in older women. Another found that women with high levels of oxybenzone during pregnancy had lower birth rate of their daughters. That's some pretty serious stuff, isn't it? So you got to be careful with these chemicals that you're putting in your body. You just think, well, I'm going to put this stuff on, and it's going to protect my skin. It might not. So let's take some callers first. If you have a question, give me a call, 844-44-DR-JOE, 844-44-DR-JOE. And James, how can we make your day better?
I need some help about my blood pressure.
Tell me about your blood pressure.
Well, it's been running pretty high. I recently had triple bypass surgery back in August, but it's still running high. And I wanted to know, I'm a CDL truck driver.
Sure.
And I need to get it down before July the 9th. What would be a radical program for me to do to get my blood pressure down to where I can pass the DOT test?
Understood. Let me ask some questions first. Do you have any acid reflux, heartburn, burping, gas, bloating?
No, not to the extreme.
Okay.
Some, but not to the extreme.
Because if you have some, one thing we might want to consider is getting that fixed, because there's a big nerve that controls your stomach. It's called the vagus nerve, V-A-G-U-S. That nerve also controls your heart. And so I have a lot of patients. I've been doing this for, 35 years. I've been working with patients. That if the stomach is pushed up against the diaphragm, it irritates the vagus nerve, and that causes the vagus nerve to cause the heart to beat harder, raising the blood pressure. So one thing we might want to consider is checking your stomach. Again, you gave me we're in emergency mode here. So you might want to get that checked right away. There are some supplements that might help. Magnesium might help because magnesium relaxes your blood vessels. And as the blood vessels open, the pressure drops. You can start trying. Oh, still there?
Yes.
Okay, good. You can try something called beet powder, B-E-E-T. You can get that in a good health food store and try to get organic beet powder. And take about a half a teaspoon or a teaspoon a day, because beet powder has nitrates in it, and nitrates convert into nitric oxide. Nitric oxide opens up your blood vessels, and that can help lower your blood pressure. You got to cut out all your sugars, breads, cookies, cakes, donuts, pastas, because sugar, the fructose in sugar, if you eat more than 30 grams a day, creates something called uric acid. Uric acid gets in your joints, and it hurts. Uric acid prevents the body from producing nitric oxide, and that could prevent the blood vessels from relaxing, raising the blood pressure. And then you could also try Hawthorne. Hawthorne is another supplement that might help lower blood pressure. But there's nothing you could really do to lower it until you get to the cause of the problem, which could be the vagus nerve, not enough nitric oxide, too much sugar. Those are the three biggies.
I appreciate it. I really enjoy your program. I really do. Thank you for
thanks,
being
James.
so helpful.
My pleasure. And that's why a lot of folks come see us, because they have health issues. And we look at the structural issue as well as the chemical issue. And that's something that most doctors don't do, is they usually just look at usually the chemical, but maybe they're looking at the structural. Well, I've got a pinched nerve. Well, we can do surgery and open up that nerve. sometimes you need surgery. Absolutely. I'm not against surgery. I'm not against drugs. I'm against unnecessary use of surgery and drugs. Let's take another call. If you have a question, 844-44 Dr. Joe. Ralph, how can we make your day better?
Hey, Dr. Joe, how you doing?
I'm happy you called. Doing great.
Good. I've got like neuropathy issues. That's what they're calling it through my primary doctor. I've got numbness in my legs and my hands.
Okay.
And I'm just wondering, I've got a friend that went to your office down in Stockbridge,
Right.
and he seemed to think that you had helped him out a lot. But his issue wasn't quite as bad as mine, and I just wondered if it's something that you could possibly look at, maybe treat.
Oh, absolutely. We see cases like yours all day, every day. Now, are you diabetic?
Type 2.
Type 2. Okay. So there we got to look at the structural and the chemical, like we were just talking about. The structural, of course, if you have a pinched nerve, it can pinch a nerve going to an area, like a pinched nerve in your neck goes to your arms, pinched nerve in your low back goes to the legs. So we want to check for the pinched nerves. Then we want to look at your diet. Because with type 2 diabetes, we got to increase your fiber. We have to cut out all the sugar. We got to take the stress off the pancreas. The pancreas has to stop making so much insulin. Because type 2 diabetes is you made so much insulin in your life that the cells became insulin resistant. You pump so much insulin into the body, the cells are like, no, I don't want. Insulin kind of opens up the cell. It's like a lock and key. The insulin is the key, goes into the lock and opens up the cell, let the sugar in. So if you've eaten sugar all your life, your body says, stop it. Stop putting sugar in here. And so it doesn't let the key open the lock anymore. So you have too much insulin. Your cells become insulin resistant. So if we get you off all the sugar, breads, cookies, cakes, donuts, pasta, sugars, we get the nervous system working properly by unpinching the nerves, and then we can get you on some supplements, things like gymnema, cinnamon. Most cases, we get really good results.
Okay, and I've switched over to Diet Coke, and that's not a good thing.
Oh, my gosh. No. One of the worst things you could possibly do. You got to cut that out right now, okay? Hey, listen, Ralph, got to go to a break, okay? I'll talk to you soon. Folks, if you have a question, give us a call, 844-44 Dr. Joe. We'll be right back. Dr. Joe. Happy that you're here. Hope everybody's having a good day. We're talking today, or answering a question today, is your sunscreen doing more harm than good? And the answer is probably yes. And one of the things I want you to learn about sunscreen is the spray-on kind. Because many times the spray-on kind, even if they have titanium dioxide or zinc oxide, which are the things you're looking for, titanium dioxide and zinc oxide, good. Oxybenzone, not so good. In fact, very bad, because that's an endocrine disruptor. It messes with your hormones. Is either one, if you're spraying it on, you can inhale these particles. And when you inhale the particle, that causes some real serious damage because your lungs don't have the capacity to get these chunks of titanium dioxide or zinc oxide out. Titanium dioxide and zinc oxide are a barrier. You put them on your skin, it should leave a mild white film. And if it leaves a mild white film, that's usually a good sign. If it doesn't, that probably means that using chemicals, not a good idea, and or it's called a nanoparticle. Now, nanoparticles are these little microparticles, and when they get into the air, they can cause real serious problems, but they can also then get absorbed into your skin. Most studies to date have shown that zinc oxide and titanium dioxide are safe and unlikely to penetrate your skin when topically applied, as long as they're not nano-sized. So we take them and make it really small so that they dissolve. You don't have that white film on you. And now they don't work, and they can actually be dangerous. So please, don't use the spray kind. And if you do use the spray kind, don't inhale them because it can get into the lungs and cause some real serious problems. We've got several callers. Let's go back to the phones at 844-44 Dr. Joe, D-R-J-O-E. Kevin, how can we make your day better?
Yes. I had a doctor that told me I have allergies, and the allergies just didn't fit with me as feeling that I had them because they were consistent. It wasn't like off and on. And so I was recommended by a friend to go talk to a specialist. So I went to a ear, nose, throat specialist, and he told me I don't have allergies. He said I have acid reflux.
Yep.
Then he told me to go talk to the doctor and give him what he had said to have them do a barium swallow or barium swallow, something like that.
Sure.
And an X-ray. Well, their doctor refuses to do that. She's just going to give me an X-ray. So I'm trying to figure out, I know that everything can be handled correctly through process of doing things the way they're supposed to. And so I'm asking you, what can I do to reduce the acid reflux? I have heartburn periodically, not all the time,
Right.
but I consistently all day have this
Sure.
mucus
Yeah.
come up
Yep. Okay.
constantly.
On my website, Kev, we get people listen to the show from all over the world. This is a very popular show, and the number one article that's downloaded from my website by far is on acid reflux. Because I always joke 85% of my patients have digestive problems and 15% lie. Because everybody's got something, the acid reflux, burping, gas, bloating. But with acid reflux, you have a sheet of muscle called the diaphragm. And below your diaphragm sits your stomach. In your case, the stomach most likely is pushing up into the diaphragm. There's a little hole or a valve there called the lower esophageal sphincter. And the stomach is pushing up into the lower esophageal sphincter, and acid, the stomach content, is coming up into your throat. And it's coming up all the way into your sinuses, irritating the sinuses, causing the runny nose. The danger of that is that if you leave it there for too long, that acid can change the molecular structure of your esophagus and lead to esophageal cancer. So if you have acid,
like esophageal what?
esophageal cancer, it can kill you. So it's not something you want to play around with. Now, one of the approaches that's very common is we'll give you pills. And the pills shut down your body's production of acid. Well, that's good, but it doesn't fix the problem. The bad part is you need acid to digest your food. So now you're not digesting your food properly. And most of those drugs prevent you from absorbing things like calcium, magnesium, B12, and iron. So now suddenly you're not treating the cause, you're not digesting your food properly, and you're not absorbing calcium, B12, iron, and magnesium. So what we do in our office is we take the stomach and we massage it. We pull it down away from the diaphragm, physically putting it back to its normal position. And I say, I mean, with all my doctors and all my offices, I don't know, when I go into the office, I'll do 15, 20 a day. Just stomachs and spines, of course. I'm a chiropractor. So we got to get the nerves working properly, and we have to manually pull the stomach away from the diaphragm. And in most cases, I know this because I have this condition, it works really well. So if you go to my website, drjoeesposito.com, or just Google Dr. Joe, you can look at the article on GERD, gastroesophageal reflux disease. It's about 2 paragraphs long, explains everything to you, and that's the approach I would take to start.
Absolutely. I've heard you on the radio several times, and this is the first time I called. I was really impressed with the information that you gave, and I just thought that if I called you, I would get the answer I'm looking for. And the answer I'm looking for is not satisfactory to myself as saying that's what I want to hear.
Right.
It's just the answer that tells me the truth.
That's it. Sometimes the truth ain't fun, but it works. So go to my website, read that over. If you want to come see us, we'd be more than happy to work with you.
Absolutely. Now, I'm in Crawford, which is in Athens, out of Atlanta. So where would your office be from where I'm at?
The closest one to you would be Duluth.
Duluth?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Okay? Thanks, Kev.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate the call. Yeah, that's such a common issue folks have with the acid reflux, and I see it all day, every day. And I have it too. And every now and then, mine still acts up, and I'll start burping. That's one of the first signs. I'll start burping a lot. And then I'll notice, too, that I'm eating, but I'm not feeling full. And I think, and I've never seen research on this because nobody's going to pay to do this research because there's no reward to it, is your stomach produces a hormone called leptin. And leptin goes up into your brain, into the hypothalamus, and it tells you that you're full. And I think that if the stomach is pushed up against the diaphragm, we're not producing the right amount of leptin. Now, this is strictly speculation because I haven't proven this. And then you don't feel full. So even though my stomach hurts, I keep wanting to eat. And if that's like you, chances are you have the acid reflux or the stomach pushed up against the diaphragm. So let's go back to our topic. We got a lot more callers. If you're on hold, folks, keep hanging on. We're going to get to you. But we're talking today about sunscreen, and is it causing more harm than good? And in many cases, it is. Now, if you have nanoparticles, these are just really tiny particles, the microscopic particles measure in less than 100 nanometers, which is really small. It's found a lot in American sunscreens, and it's either titanium dioxide or zinc oxide. So now you see that, and you say that's good, but now we've taken something that's good and made it bad. And we don't want to spray that stuff because if it gets in the lungs have a real tough time clearing these small particles, and then they can pass into your bloodstream. Other studies have proven some nanoparticles can even cross into what's called your blood-brain barrier. Now, around your brain, if you can remember Star Trek, they'd walk into these, force fields and they couldn't get through. Around your brain, you have something called the blood-brain barrier. This is a real simple explanation. And some things can get into the brain and some can't. And it's there to protect your brain because your brain controls everything. And as a chiropractor, I want to make sure the messages are getting from your brain down your spine, out to your body, and back up. And some chemicals can't pass past the blood-brain barrier because they can be dangerous to the brain. And one of the challenges the pharmaceutical industry has is trying to find drugs that they can trick the blood-brain barrier to get it in there. And sometimes that's necessary. But these nanoparticles sometimes get through the blood-brain barrier, and that can cause some real serious problems. And that can lead to things like weakened immune system, cytotoxicity, which is blood poisoning. So you got to be careful with those spray suntan oils. Folks, I'm Dr. Joe Esposito. My website, drjoeesposito.com. If you have a healthcare question, give us a call, 844-44-DR-JOE, DRJOE. That number, by the way, rings through to my office when I'm not on the air here. 844-44-DR-JOE. Hey, tell your friends about the show. Don't go anywhere. We're going to be right back. Hey, everybody, thanks for tuning in. Do appreciate you taking time to be with me today. And what we're talking about today is sunscreen. My, what exciting topic. But it really is neat because for all my life, I was always told, put on your sunscreen, protect your skin. And I know I have a cousin, and she lived down the Jersey Shore. If you know anything about Jersey, there really is a place called the Jersey Shore. It's a whole, New Jersey has a huge coastline. But anyway, she would be out in the sun all the time, and she would just soak herself in suntan lotions and oils and protections. And she developed skin cancer, still does, over and over and over again. And sometimes people don't listen when they're family. I don't know if you knew that. Somebody once said, no man's a prophet in his own hometown. Boy, is that ever true. So, yeah, she's covering herself up but with the sunscreen, but she keeps getting these skin cancers because one of the things that happens is the chemicals can interact. And some of the chemicals like oxybenzone can actually cause more problems than they can prevent. So one of the things you want to do with sun is go out in the sun, when the skin starts getting a little red, maybe 10, 15, 20 minutes, then you can either A, the most effective thing is get out of the sun, or B, if you're going to put on a sunscreen, make sure it doesn't have oxybenzone, vitamin A in it, or fragrances. Now, if you ever go down to the Caribbean or any country close to the equator, you'll notice that the locals don't walk around in shorts and T-shirts, do they? They usually wear long pants, long shirts, hats. So they're physically protecting themselves against the sun. Now, a lot of folks are darker skinned too, but if you go down there, it's interesting. You always spot the tourists. We're the ones in the shorts and the T-shirts and the tank tops and the flip-flops. But they're protecting themselves physically from the sun, and that's really the best thing you can do. Get yourself a big floppy hat. Get some big baggy clothes. Get some scrubs if you want to wear something really loose-fitting. And that's going to be the most effective thing that we can do. But if we are going to expose ourselves, be careful. If you're using the spray-on sunscreens, they can create a condition called metal fume fever. If you're inhaling high amounts of zinc oxide, you might get chest pain, coughing, reduced lung volume, nausea, chills, leukocytosis. An animal study on zinc oxide nanoparticles, they found it to be cytotoxic, interfering with zinc homeostasis, elevating zinc levels, and resulting in something called apoptosis. That's a lot of big words. The bottom line is too much of it can cause apoptosis, which is a fun word that actually means cell death. The cell kills itself. And so that's what we try to do with cancer. We try to get the cancer cells to go into a state of apoptosis. Well, we don't want healthy cells to do that. So a couple of things you got to be careful with. Ahmad is waving to me. He has a question. I'm sorry. Let me get Ahmad here. Ahmad's bigger than me. I don't want to get him mad at me. You have a question for us, Ahmad.
Yes, I do. So today's question comes from Gary. Gary says, my symptoms are extreme fatigue. I know I'm not as young as I used to be, but I don't think I should feel this tired. Any suggestions?
Yes, Gary. A couple of things I need to know about you, of course. He sent that in through Facebook, right? Okay, so that's a Facebook
Correct,
question,
yes.
yeah. And if you have questions, you can. It's better you send them through my website, actually, drjoeesposito.com, but this one came in through Facebook. And when it comes to fatigue, a couple of things. Number one, most of us are dehydrated. We got to be getting more fluid into our bodies, especially water. So the first thing I tell people is if you're tired all the time, drink 8-9 glasses of water a day and see how you feel. Now, one of the tricks you want to do is I like to drink all my water before 3 o'clock in the afternoon because if I drink around 4 or 5 o'clock, I wake up and pee all night. So if you're not young and have a strong bladder and you wake up a lot, try to cut back your fluid intake to about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Second thing is you got to cut out the sugars, the 7 deadly sins: alcohol, meat, sugar, dairy, coffee, soda, and artificial sweetener. And that's going to help tremendously. So many times when it comes to health, it's not what you do, it's what you don't do. So much of healthcare when it comes to nutrition is passive, not active. And when you're passive, stop doing things, it makes life a lot easier. So I couldn't make it easier for you. Stop doing it. Third thing is you got to make sure your body's getting nutrition. That's why I created Dr. Joe's Super Greens and Dr. Joe's Essential Source. They're 2 powders. I take them every day. And I tell you, people always say, how do you do it? I run circles around people half my age. Younger than half my age, actually. And one of the secrets that I have is I don't put the bad stuff in, and I do put the good stuff in. And the good stuff absolutely is Dr. Joe's Super Greens and Dr. Joe's Essential Source for most patients. It's about 10 servings of raw fruits and vegetables in a powder form, prebiotics, probiotics, digestive enzymes, complete multivitamins, omega-3 fatty acids. It alkalizes your system, gives you iodine to help your thyroid and every cell in the body that needs iodine. It's so easy. Take a scoop of each, mix it with some coconut milk or almond milk. I just put it in a jar and shake it up. In fact, at the last break, I finished up my Super Greens and Essential Source for the day here. And just drink it. And it tastes good, and you feel great when you do it, and I think you'll be amazed. Do it for a month. Do it religiously for a month and see what happens. And I think you're going to go, wow, now I understand. And then if we have to dig deeper, we might want to look at your adrenal glands, Gary. Your adrenals might be burned out. If you have bags under your eyes, that's usually a sign of adrenal insufficiency. So we may have to get in there and fix that as well. And then, of course, as a chiropractor, we want to look at the physical stress that's coming on the body. If you have pinched nerves, neck pain, back pain, shoulder pain, that's exhausting. I have an old neck injury. I played football and hockey. I was hit by a car when I was 10 years old. I was in Germany. It flipped over, landed on my head. They thought I was dead. They left me on the side of the road until the ambulance came, and I moved, getting into the ambulance. But because of all these head injuries, I have an area in my neck right behind my left ear, the left atlas area, and every now and then I'll do something crazy, and it'll start to hurt like a son of a gun. And when that happens, I get exhausted. So pain is one of the reasons that people get exhausted. And if we can restructure the spine, and I get adjusted, and it helps tremendously, but I tore the ligaments up there. So I put the bones back in place. I eat a good diet. I know caffeine triggers my headache, so I don't do any caffeine. And I'm fine. I can be fine for months at a time. So if you have pain, let's get to the cause of the pain instead of just treating the symptoms. And many times that's going to solve the problem. Then eat right, Super Greens, Essential Source. And we do a nutritional evaluation on all my patients because it may mean that you need more than just Super Greens and Essential Source, but usually it's the minimum. So hopefully, Gary, that answered your question. So we're talking today about sunscreen, and is it dangerous? And the answer is it can be actually. And one of the most compelling reasons to get regular, sensible sun exposure on your bare skin is that it promotes optimum physical and psychological health and prevents chronic diseases, a lot of cases. Noted in a scientific review of dermatologist Richard Weller, sun exposure has cardiovascular benefits, vitamin D benefits, and cardiovascular disease benefits, and it's a far greater public health problem than skin cancer. So when we come back, we're going to talk about what sun does to your body, how to pick out a good sunscreen, and then some things you can do to create internal sunscreen. Isn't that something exciting? Even Ahmad's eyes lit up when I said that. So, folks, my website is drjoeesposito.com. Just Google Dr. Joe. You can send me questions, listen to radio shows, videos that I've done of lectures. If you want to order Super Greens and Essential Source, drjoeesposito.com. They're also available on Amazon, too, if you have an Amazon account. Hey, tell your friends about the show. We'll be right back. Hey, everybody, thanks for being here. Do appreciate you taking time out of your day. We're talking today about sunscreen, and is it dangerous? And the answer is it could be. So the reason we want some sun exposure is the sun does a lot of things. Sun exposure increases your nitric oxide production. You've heard me talk about that a lot. It opens up your blood vessels, and it relaxes your blood vessels. It lowers your blood pressure, decreases platelet activity, making your blood thinner and less likely to clot and form a stroke or heart attack. Nitric oxide also helps improve your immune system. So it's one of the things sun does. Red and infrared rays are rarely discussed, but research shows that the red and near-infrared both have powerful benefits improving what's called mitochondrial function. There's a part of your cell called the mitochondria, and that's the part of the cell that generates energy. So it actually is like plugging in your cells to get more energy. A study driving home this risk-benefit reality was done in Sweden. Overall, women who got regular sun exposure did have higher risk of melanoma compared to sun avoiders, but they also had lower overall cause mortality, and probably due to their increase in vitamin D. So they did have more skin cancer, but they had a lot less other things, and skin cancer is a small part of this whole picture here. So women with active sun habits ended up having lower risk of cardiovascular disease and non-cancer death compared to those who avoided the sun. So again, it's this pro and con. You might avoid melanomas, but you might be increasing your risk of other conditions. So in short, it's if you're concerned about mortality, not just the mortality from one specific disease like melanoma, the scales are decidedly tipped towards sun exposure being a tremendous benefit. 5 of the things you can do, some of the benefits are, it's an analgesic. It helps with pain. It increases subcutaneous fat metabolism. We all like that. Regulation of the human lifespan. It can actually help influence your life expectancy in a positive way. Daytime sun exposure improves evening alertness and conversion to metabolic energy. We can absorb the sun rays and actually get energy from it. The absolute best way to get vitamin D is sensible sun exposure. There's no question about it. So you want to reduce your risk, and this is what I want to talk about here, reduce your risk with internal sunscreens. And Ahmad got excited when I say that. As mentioned, one of the primary risk factors of skin cancer is sunburn, which is an inflammatory process. Aside from paying careful attention to cover up from getting burned, you can reduce your risk of sunburn by eating plenty of antioxidant-rich fruits and vegetables. And that's why I made Dr. Joe's Super Greens and Dr. Joe's Essential Source for the antioxidants. A friend of mine, her son is a fireman, and one of the concerns they have is the cancer among firemen is very high. And one of the things we need to do to avoid all sorts of cancer is to make sure your body is healthy. And we stay away from the bad foods, the foods that have things in it called free radicals, which are like Pac-Man. They attack your cells and damage the cells, and then the cells can mutate and become cancerous. But if we eat a lot of antioxidants, the antioxidants fight the free radicals. They prevent them from doing the damage. They kind of like neutralize them. And so something along the lines of Dr. Joe's Super Greens and Dr. Joe's Essential Source is loaded with antioxidants. I take it every day. And I've made this stuff for myself more than I made it for you. But this stuff is really powerful, and it's incredible when you get those mega doses of antioxidants, the fruits, vegetables that are in there, the probiotics, prebiotics, complete multivitamin. That's why I think you should probably give it a shot for a month and see what happens. And I think you'll be really happy. And you can get those on my website, drjoeesposito.com, or you can just Google Dr. Joe with the #1 Dr. Joe in the world. Super Greens Essential Source. We have a colon cleanser if your bowels aren't moving 2 to 3 times a day. Yes, a day. You probably want to jumpstart them. My books are available there. My radio shows, archive radio shows, videos of my lectures. Watch the videos, folks, because I can show you things I can't show you on the website. So let's talk about how to choose a safer sunscreen. You want to make sure they don't have nanoparticles and they protect against UVA and UVB rays. And you want to make sure they don't have oxybenzone, synthetic fragrances, or retinol palmitate, which is a form of vitamin A. Now, keep in mind that the SPF protects only against UVB rays, which are the rays that are within the ultraviolet spectrum that allow your skin to produce vitamin D. So avoid sunscreens if they don't have the protect against UVA and the UVB rays. Now, most do now. It's pretty common now. You're not going to see one that really doesn't have that. And there's really no need to go above 50. A sunscreen above an SPF of 50 really is just a waste of time and a waste of money. You really don't need that. Some other sunning tips. Give your body a chance to produce vitamin D before applying the sunscreen. Expose large amounts of your skin, about 40% of your body, to sunlight for short periods daily, 10, 15, 20 minutes. Optimizing your vitamin D level may reduce your risk of many internal cancers and actually reduce your risk of skin cancer. So it's like you said, if you get a little bit is good, too much bad. Stay out just long enough so your skin is the lightest shade of pink. Shield your face from the sun because your facial skin is thin and more prone to sun damage, such as premature wrinkling. I knew a gal one time years ago, and she was in her late 40s, and she didn't have a wrinkle on her, and she was a model. And everybody said, "What was your secret?" She goes, "I never, ever let sun hit my face." And she always wore big floppy hats and not a lot of sunscreen because those are chemicals, but just big floppy hats, and it seemed to work real well. When you're in the sun for a long period of time, cover up with a hat or shade. Get out of the sun. That's really the easiest thing to do. You get an umbrella. Go under a tree. A safe sunscreen can be applied after you've optimized your skin daily vitamin D production, although clothing is really going to be your safest option to prevent burning. Now, keep in mind, in order for sunscreen to be effective, you have to apply large amounts all over your exposed skin. This means the product should not trigger skin allergies and must provide good protection against UVA and UVB radiation. It also should not be absorbed into your skin. It should create a white film. And if you're creating a slight white film, that's a good sunscreen. If it's not creating a slight white film, chances are it's either nanoparticles or chemicals, not a good idea. And really the key here is consuming a good, healthy diet. Lots of fruits, vegetables, nuts, and seeds. That's going to help avoid a lot of sun damage. Raw, unprocessed foods like Dr. Joe's Super Greens and Dr. Joe's Essential Source deliver the nutrients your body needs to maintain a healthy balance between omega-6 and omega-3 fatty acids. Now, in addition to Super Greens and Essential Source, I also take an omega-3 fatty acid supplement. I take an algae oil because algae is the purest form of omega-3 fatty acids. It's a little expensive. The next best choice would be krill oil. Krill is a great source of omega-3 fatty acids, and they're small. They kind of look like shrimp, and they don't live very long, and they're small, so they're not exposed to a lot of mercury. The bigger fish, the tuna fish, unless it's certified mercury-free, then it's fine. But if you're buying the cheap omega-3 fatty acids, they're not going to be certified mercury-free, and now you can be doing more harm than good. And make sure you get a high-quality supplement of anything. Because if you're taking fish oils and they're rancid, they can actually cause more harm than good. Folks, I got to go. If you have any healthcare questions, you can send them to me through my website. I'll get back to you. If I don't get back to you right away, I will soon. drjoeesposito.com. You can Google Dr. Joe. You can order Dr. Joe's Super Greens, Dr. Joe's Essential Source, intestinal cleansers, books, other supplements. They're also available on Amazon. If you have an Amazon account, you can get them there. And my website, again, all day, every day, drjoeesposito.com. Hey, folks, thanks so much for listening. And do me a favor, tell your friends about the show. Catch you next time.